Hello, friends. I'm back. It's been a while, I know. I had to get my affairs in order. You see, growing up as a Jehovah's Witness, you may not have known this, but at a very young age, to your adulthood, you have been trained to lie and to speak half-truths. Why? Well, who else then for Jehovah? There is no other reason. And for posturing. We'll get to that in a minute. Jehovah's Witnesses. When you want to leave the organization, you do have to stop a few behaviors. You have to stop acting tribalistic. You have to start doing your due diligence and actually researching things before you make an opinion about them. Looking at both sides of the argument. Playing devil's advocate once in a while to opinions that you may not even agree with or find reprehensible. Intellectual honesty. One of the championing things of enlightenment hold little to no value to Jehovah's Witnesses. And I have to say, after a year of not going to meetings, I felt that it was enough. There's no need for this double life. There's no need to tell people that you're one thing and thinking another. This isn't Islam. You don't need to lie about who you are in order to not get killed. But we feel pressured to do this because of the elusive relationships that we have with the people within Jehovah's Witnesses. Your own flesh and blood will only love you conditionally as long as you remain true to the organization. It has very little to do with Jehovah or the Bible. And it has everything to do with loyalty to the organization, even if they won't admit it. Even if there's enough Christians who leave the organization and decide to worship Jehovah the way they feel is the right way. Or if they even feel that Jehovah is a mispronunciation of his name, maybe it's best just to use titles until further notice. And when it comes to living the double life of Jehovah's Witnesses, or living dishonestly, they would do it all the time. I can't be the only one who experienced it. You'd have many different groups and cliques within Jehovah's Witnesses. At one gathering, they would act one way. They would act like they would at a kingdom hall or around a group of elders, or in a service group. And at the after party, they'd act in a different way. They would tell jokes that they would not normally tell other people. They would watch R-rated movies. They would drink heavily. And they would pretend to be spiritual when it came to being around other elders. They would always put this under the guise that, well, they don't do this around other Jehovah's Witnesses because it's a conscience matter and they don't want to sully other people's consciences. When in reality, it's all about the double life that Jehovah's Witnesses lead. It's a common theme. It's a way of life. Well, friends, I decided to call a few associates of mine, call a few friends, talked to a few relatives, talked to a few people, and I told them that I was tired of living a lie. Not only tired, I said I apologized for living a lie. That for 4 years, while dressing up as a Jehovah's Witness, I continued through that experience not believing anything that was said at the stage. And it's only been in recent years that I've decided to leave. You might think, why do that if you can as easily slip away and act as if nothing happened? Well, if you still have family in this cult, you're going to realize that if you want to live any kind of life, you may end up breaking some of the stipulations that are set by the organization. Little tidbits that they found in the Bible and they've run a mile with. And if you're not going along with that program, then you're going to be turned in. And they're going to read your name off the platform. And you can hear a pin drop at the Kingdom Hall as the name is uttered. While a group of people may have their suspicions acknowledged and their concerns found true, while another group remains frustrated and angry that you have chosen to no longer be loyal to the organization. It's tiring. Well, in this act of disobedience, I received a phone call from an elder. He asked me if there was anything that he could do for me. I told him that if a governing body member is at the courtroom in Australia, or in any country for that matter of fact, then I want you to be honest to me, and I want you to be honest with everyone else. He said, okay. He didn't expound on it. He didn't say anything more. He didn't deny it. He asked me again if there was anything that I can help him with, or that he can help me with. And I had realized that this elder had no idea what I was talking about. It had been a year since this Royal Commission has happened, and none of them know about it. I have people constantly asking questions about it towards others, and they simply have no idea that it's been going on, or that it happened at all. You see, the truth, the people who are privy to the direction of God's organization don't even know about it, and all the worldly people do. Or not all of them, but at least some. At least some people within Satan's world knows about this before Jehovah's Witnesses do. How do you figure that? Well, after essentially a few seconds in conversation with this elder, I knew that my days as a Jehovah's Witness were over. My name would be read at the platform. I had spent a long time with my parents knowing about who I was and that I had not believed in it for a very long time. They had not stopped their association with me. It was only after that this whole thing began to unravel, and it was only after that my name was announced from the platform that my own mother decided to send me a letter. saying that my mother and father will no longer be associating with me. That only under family matters and business matters, family business matters, they will be talking with me. I told them that I didn't want their financial aid. I only wanted their love. You see, Jehovah's Witnesses have a funny way of telling you that how disfellowshipping is a loving arrangement. In fact, I'd like it to read it to you from their own website in itself. And I will begin to even point out the dishonesty even on their own website. Let's begin, shall we? Let's see. 2 factors which must coincide result in the disfellowshipping of one of Jehovah's Witnesses. First, a baptized witness commits a serious sin. Second, he does not repent of his sin. Well, what about in my case? The facts presented to me led me to a different conclusion than Jehovah's Witnesses. Was I not allowed to change my mind? I even said I was sorry for lying, which isn't really punishable by Jehovah's Witnesses, if you've ever noticed. Although Jehovah does not demand perfection from us, he does have a standard of holiness that he expects his servants to meet. For example, Jehovah insists that we avoid such serious sins as sexual immorality, idolatry, thievery, extortion, murder, and spiritism. Well, what about wrongthink? What about going against the narrative of Jehovah's Witnesses? They seem to leave that part out, that they punish people for thinking wrong. Would you not agree that Jehovah's clean standards are reasonable, and that they serve to protect us? And if that were true, why aren't child molesters mentioned on that list? They say sexual immorality, but do they really consider that 2 consenting adults having sex is anywhere the same as an elder molesting a child? Or anyone in the congregation molesting a child? Do they think that these things are similar? Do they think... I'd like to know. You can type it below. Who does not prefer to live among peaceful, decent people who could be trusted? Well, that would be nice if I could trust Jehovah's Witnesses. We find such an environment among our spiritual brothers and sisters, thanks to the promise we make at the time of our dedication to God to live in harmony with the guidelines found in His Word. But what if a baptized Christian commits a serious sin because of human weakness? Faithful servants of Jehovah in the past made such mistakes, yet God did not reject them outright. King David is a prime example. David committed adultery and murder, yet the prophet Nathan informed him, Jehovah forgives your sin. You see, Jehovah can forgive the sins of murderers, but he cannot forgive the sins of people who no longer are on the same opinion as Jehovah. Disfellowshipping can benefit everyone concerned. Jesus pointed out that wisdom is proved righteous by its results. A wise decision to disfellowship an unrepentant wrongdoer produces righteous results. Now, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, I want to ask you something. What kind of unrepentant person goes to the elders to confess their sins? What kind of unrepentant person goes to a group of people who have no real authority and says, I've messed up? That's just something for you to chew on. Disfellowshipping wrongdoers honors Jehovah's name. Since we bear the name of Jehovah, our behavior inevitably reflects on his name, just as a son's conduct can bring either honor or reproach on his parents. So people's feelings toward Jehovah will depend to some extent on the good or bad example they observe in his name. God's good name, it's upheld if the people who bear that name make Jehovah a moral standard their own. The situation was somewhat similar in Ezekiel's time when people of the nations closely associated the name of Jehovah with the Jews. Disfellowshipping protects the clean Christian congregation. Disfellowshipping may bring the wrongdoer to his senses. Because if you don't agree with Jehovah's Witnesses, you're obviously not at your right senses. And here we are at the meat of this, the loving way to deal with disfellowshipped ones. The loving way to do it. You see, there's a loving way to shun your family. Did you know that? True disfellowshipping is a spiritual tragedy, but the tragedy need not become an unmitigated disaster. All of us play a role in making sure that the disfellowshipping serves its purpose. Elders who have the sad task of communicating a disfellowshipping decision strive to reflect Jehovah's love when informing the person of their decision. They kindly and clearly explain the steps he needs to take to be reinstated in the congregation, for the sake of reminding disfellowshipped ones of how they can return to Jehovah. Elders may periodically visit those who have given some evidence of changing their ways. You see, the people who are supposed to be petitioning Jehovah and asking him to read the hearts of individuals, it seems that God cannot give them the answer. It seems that they have to rely on physical evidence in order to come to this conclusion. Have I taken away the spiritual mirage of Jehovah's Witnesses? Family members can show love for the congregation and the erring one by respecting the disfellowshipping decision. He was still my son, explains Julian, but his lifestyle had put up a barrier between us. You see, it didn't matter what my lifestyle was at the time. It only mattered that I finally confessed my sins to the elders, and I told them that I apologize to people for lying about being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. All in the congregation can show principled love by avoiding contact and conversation with the disfellowshipped person. They thus reinforce the discipline that Jehovah has given him through the elders. Furthermore, they can give extra love and support to the family of the disfellowshipped one, who suffer considerably and who should not be made to feel that they too are excluded from association with fellow believers. Disfellowshipping is an arrangement that we need, one that helps us live according to Jehovah's standards, Julian concludes. In the long run, despite the pain, it brings good results. Had I been tolerant of my son's bad conduct, he would never have recovered. There's also a wonderful article within Jehovah's Witnesses about limiting your association with your disfellowship family members. At work, hearing these crushing words from my own mother took its toll on me. They had made me felt that I had wronged them, when in reality, I was not different of a person than when they had left me. I've already had my tears, I've already had my frustration and my pain. And it's painful. You feel alone. You feel lost. The empty void just swallows you whole, and you're consumed by this idea that you may never find happiness or a family again. In talking with my own mother, she said that you have to treat us like we are dead, because we're going to treat you as if you are dead. I sometimes ask myself why it didn't hit me as hard as it probably should have. I sucked in a lot of that. I think I've even mentally closed the door on it. I have no purpose or reason. I have to think about the day I was baptized, and I really wish that I had known about all of this. I wish I had known about the secret books, the Shepherd the Flock book, the changes in the doctrine, the fuzzy numbers. I don't think I would have ever gotten baptized. There's not much to end on this. I just thought that people need to know what goes on in the world of Jehovah's Witnesses.